What do you think prompted this move? I mean, we know Nwosu got hurt.
Right.
So you're losing an edge rusher. He's listed, if you look at his player page on ESPN, they have him as a defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And he did have a year where he had double-digit sacks. I think he had, 10.5 one year?
Yeah.
And then 6.5 the next year, and then it's kind of gone down each year. He looks like an interior guy. It feels like a big move if you're talking about, well, they need depth. I'm like, okay, you could get depth without giving up a second and a fifth. So I assume he's going to be, they're envisioning him being a big part of what they're going to do moving forward. So how does he fit, do you think?
Yeah, well, here's where, first of all, he can pretty much play anywhere. I mean, he can play nose guard. I mean, I've never seen him in a two-point stance on the outside, but he can play the 5 technique, which is head up on the tackle. Watching the 49er game, and he is absorbing some double teams. It's pretty impressive, I got to say. I mean, and then Trent Williams and the other guy, Banks, who's their guard, he's probably their second best offensive lineman. He took on a double team from those two guys, and Trent Williams he's the man. And just kind of shrugged it off, split the double team. He hits, he'll knock people back, and he can play all those positions on the interior. So, but they were playing really good against the run, going into this game. They had a couple of things that got loose, but still they were, number 1, number 2 as far as yards per carry. So I just think I think for them it's a special opportunity. I think that they think he's going to fit in really well on this defense, and they can move him around, and, they get something out of him because, they don't easily give up second and fifth round draft choices.
Yeah, I'm looking at it going, I like that they're doing something, that they're bringing in a player of note, a guy who's had success in this league and is still, he's not young in football years, but he's not old yet. I think he's 29 years old.
He's 29.
So, he's a guy that certainly brings something to the table, but I'm immediately going, okay, so whose reps is he taking? Somebody who's currently getting reps is going to get fewer reps, or maybe it'll be spread out amongst a couple of guys. I'm not really sure. I'm very anxious to see, how they use him. What it is in somebody texting, and you guys can text in 866-979-3776, powered by Mac and Jack's Brewing Company. Somebody saying we got killed up the middle yesterday. Well, they didn't just go, on the heels of this game go, let's get on the phone and make a trade. That was terrible. This is something that's obviously been in the works prior to yesterday's game.
Yeah, when they weren't getting gutted up the middle.
Yeah.
So, I think, it's probably been something that they've been looking at since they saw the Giant game. And, it's something that's particular that probably a D-line coach or a guy like Clint Hurtt could tell you that he sews that part of their defense up. So, I'm kind of excited about it. I just am. My only reservation is just how well they've done with the drafts lately, the last 2 draft picks. But, it kind of makes sense for the Giants. They're terrible. I was listening to the guy that came on with, I can't remember his name. We'll get it. But he was on with Bumpus and Stacy, and he was talking about how they suck. And so, they're pretty much going to,
the Giants suck.
Yeah, and that they're trying to build for the future. So those 2 draft choices will be well used. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. Didn't really expect it, but I don't know. Doesn't it make you feel like once we figure this out, and we'll hear from Pete at 4:00, like, what's the reason? Like, I know that him and John have had that discussion of like, this is what this guy can do for us, and that's what Pete will tell us. But I mean, I feel like it's they're kind of going for it, like Pete likes to say. We're going to go for it.
Johnny's on it.
We're really going to go for it. Johnny's on it. Yeah. So, this all of a sudden, I kept having to tell myself, I felt there were times yesterday I just felt really bad about what was going on the field. I mean, some of they get, they go right down the field in like 4 plays and score. And I'm like, oh man, this is, I don't know if this team is, where they need to be. And then they end up beating a team they're really good. The Cleveland Browns are a really good team, and they're going to face an even
defensive team,
tougher test coming up. But yeah, they can't get their quarterback situation handled, and you see, how valuable and how hard it is to get that. PJ Walker was a playmaker. I mean, he really was, running the screen game and everything like that. Running, the reverses, all that stuff.
The screen was killing him.
But when it was time for him to pick up a third down throw, I mean, he was way off on a lot of those throws. And I was really surprised by that. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how good they are, in other words. But now you're going to face a team that's really good defensively, and they have Lamar Jackson, who threw a ridiculous touchdown that I saw in the highlights where he does a full, pump fake like he's going to throw it. He stops it. He's flat-footed, and then he just zips it to the back of the end zone. So it's going to be difficult. So maybe, they're looking at their – they got to beat the 49ers, got to play them twice, and they're looking at Leonard Williams going, okay, this guy can definitely help us out in certain situations.
Yeah, it's going to be – I'm looking forward to hearing what Pete says about it and how he fits and what the rotation's going to be like. It just – again, it seems like a big move if you're just going, we needed depth.
Yeah.
And I don't see it that way.
Well, you asked the question, like, who is not – like, who is it – who are they going to –
who does it impact?
Who does it impact?
Who's
and
reps?
Or what are they seeing or not seeing out there from the guys that they have out there? And I'm wondering if maybe Cameron Young might be further away than they thought. And so that probably is one answer. Maybe Mario Edwards. I mean, I feel like those guys inside have played pretty well. I mean, Dre Jones is just a monster in there, really strong. That's kind of who Leonard Williams reminds me of when you watch him play. He's really strong. Like I said, he's splitting these double teams. He's taking on Trent Williams, and he's not even really budging. So maybe it's that, and maybe he's just another guy like that so that you can have that three-man rotation where you're putting Dre Jones, Jaron Reed, and now Big Cat Williams in there.
I wonder – I'm trying to remember when they brought over Dwayne Brown, what his contract – I feel like did they – extend him fairly soon after he got here? I'm trying to remember what his contract situation was. Or
I thought he came back. He was on his current contract, obviously, and then it was at the end. And when he came back, remember, I think he stayed. He was a hold-in. Like they were going to pay him, but they just hadn't gotten to it yet.
I'm talking the year they traded for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they signed him after the season. For some reason, I was thinking it was during this. Few games in, he signed an extension. I could be wrong about that.
I could be wrong too. I thought there was a point where he was at camp and he was gonna be there and they were gonna pay him. They just told him, hey, we have an order of how we're gonna do things and it needs to fall this way. So,
okay.
Yeah, but and it'll be kind of a nice prove it situation for Leonard Williams. I mean, he's getting to the point where he's old. He's going to be 30, and we'll see if that motivates him a little bit to play better because he's going to not have a contract next year.
Yeah, so there you go. Seahawks making a big move, and we'll see how it plays out. I love the addition. I'm curious to see how they use him and what kind of impact he has. But hey, if anything that makes him better, I'm in.